Recorded live with little or no editing. It's Defense Up, War Edition. I'm Run 7. How you doing? Today we have Happy Devils, aka Damian Brockham's defense. If you're interested in having your War or Crucible defense featured on Defense Up, links are in the description below. We're about 4 weeks out on the list right now, which is where we usually hover at. So just, DM me some pics of your defense, whether it be Crucible or War, and we'll get you featured in the lineup. We had Jgiusti and Zero in my ear today, helping me out with these teams. A lot of interesting stuff, very low power levels. This is an 8.5 million TCP roster operating at Plat 2. And we're going to talk a lot about where you should be investing in rather than worrying so much about these teams, because at this level and at that size of a roster, and we're not sure, but we kind of theorized that Happy Devils actually left the game and came back by some of the size of these characters. We're talking about how you want to invest your resources into these, whether you should pass, whether you should go hard on it, and what kind of tier some of these teams are. At this level, you're kind of throwing in garbage in a lot of spots, just filling up some defensive rooms. It's better than just shield guards, so we're doing what we can. Team number 1 here is the shield team. Now, Coulson's not doing any favors to this team because of his power level. In fact, everybody's really kind of horrible on this. Shield Trooper being one of the biggest members here is really horrific, but whatever. I would like to see Coulson change to a striker. I would like to see Assaulter as a raider. She puts out lots of crit, gives crit to the rest of the team, and is doing a lot of AoEs, putting vulnerables all over the field. That way Coulson can do his basic and do some turn meter rewind, which is going to be more effective than him trying to be a damage dealer at this low power, rewinding the turn meter so that Fury, of all people, and maybe this guy could do the damage. That's probably the better play here. And then Fury, we had a long discussion about Fury. If you're close to unlocking Fury and you want to go to Omega Red, Omega Red's a valuable character for you, and you can get him reasonably early. It's kind of like, how hard do you want to push for Omega Red? If you're a newer player, it might be so far away that by the time you get to Omega Red, his value has really depreciated. So I think we're close enough that Happy Devils can go ahead and make the push to unlock Omega Red with Fury. If you're in the vicinity, farm your cream minions, decide if you want to push for Omega Red. If so, then go ahead and build your cream minions, unlock Fury to the appropriate star level, and then go after Omega Red. Kind of user beware though, because Omega Red's time has come and gone. Nick Fury can be used in a lot of places on offense by using his special instead of his ultimate, but you don't need to build him very big, so you don't need to build Fury for any reason really other than unlocking Omega Red. Fury should be a raider on defense because he has a lot of crit features built into his kit, and he does a chain attack and that sort of thing. So let's change it from a healer to a raider. There's not really a lot of healing going on this team right here. Even with Maria Hill on it as a healer, she's too small to do anything. One option we talked about, because Maria Hill has a lot of value for newer players, you should build her fast, but stop, I don't know, gear tier 12 probably. Something like along that. You can get some value out of her as a healer for Doom 3 and below and things like that. So there's some value there. Go ahead and build Maria Hill up. Just don't take her too far. And then as for Shield Trooper, Raider's fine. He's Shield Trooper. He's a garbage minion. Don't build any of the rest of this team. Don't build Coulson. Don't build those minions. Figure out what you want to do with Fury. Placement on this team is good, but we do need to change those ISOs. Since you're only going ISO level 1, you're not really wasting anything. I won't dock you too much for that, but you do need to change them to better. Fortifier on Assaulter for sure. Raider on Fury, and then Maria Hill. Let's get some points into Maria Hill. You can get some value out of her. Just don't build her too big, because later you will be replacing her with other options and not using her at all. All right, so for me, this team is kind of trash filler. It's done a little bit wrong. We need to balance out some of the power levels. It's going to take a lot of work. I'm going to go with a C for this. It's nothing too exciting, but it's not absolutely horrific either. All right, this team I hate. There's not a lot to be done with it. I think that this is a filler team that you can throw in here. I don't think anybody should be building Doc Ock at this point. I'm not using him anywhere. I don't think he has a lot of value even for newer players. I think Rhino should be changed to a Raider, but otherwise the ISOs on this team are fine. We see a lot of those lopsided Doc Ock Sinister Six teams where Doc Ock is built up really big and they didn't bother investing in the rest of the Sinister Six because the Sinister Six is real garbage. What's weird is newer players are usually competing in wars where people don't have symbiotes. They don't have the Axemen built who could take advantage of those wonky power levels and roll over the team. So there's still the idea that it might happen, but there's still, we were talking about this back and forth. There's still a lot of different counters that go into this. Just don't build the team. Skip it. Nothing done wrong here. You haven't wasted any of your investment in this team because you haven't really built them all that big. The only thing I could say is nitpicking is just change that one ISO on Rhino. I like the placement. It is what it is. It's just a filler team. I'm going to give this a B. Don't build it any higher though. Team number 3. Here is a third tier defense. Now what I mean by third tier is obviously there's tiers 1 and 2 before it that are going to be better, but this is something that you could invest in a little bit. You just don't want to get carried away. I would like to see all of these characters brought up absolutely no higher than gear tier 12. There's some value with the Hydra tag for campaign nodes. There's some value with the villain tag for campaign nodes. There's some value with Red Skull as a plug and play character on some hybrid teams later on. You don't need to build him past gear tier 12. He's there for his speed feature. Keep him a striker if you want, but I think he's probably going to be better as a raider or a skirmisher to place a vulnerable for the other members on this team to work off of. Later on, he probably doesn't even really take an attacking turn so much because he's going to get killed. He'll just speed up your team. The rest of these guys, I'd like to see them all as fortifiers so that when they die, they revive with more barrier. This is a team that you put X amount of resources into, and your opponent has to put X plus resources to beat it. So you get a little bit of value there. Just don't go crazy. This is a garbage team, right? But at a low level of investment, it does have some value to it. Red Skull, some value later on. And then there's also the opportunity to use like Grenadier on some stuff later on. Hydra Sniper is a fan of others. Just don't go crazy with the team. The ISOs on this as is are okay, but I think a better choice would just be Fortifier on almost everybody. So I'm going to give this a B-. Pretty decent filler team right here. An even better filler team is the Young Avengers. This team, I would like to see at more of an even power level, and then they are a very useful tool. Even in today's meta, they're a pretty second tier team. They're kind of good everywhere. On defense, on offense, in Crucible, in War, in different raids and Scourges and Dark Dimensions and all kinds of stuff. They're just a good team. So don't hesitate to build on this team a little bit. For right now, taking America Chavez off of this team and using her on a hybrid defense, like say with Eternals or something, might be a little bit more valuable. Right now, you have her speeding up the worst two people on this build. If the team was evenly fleshed out power-wise, this would be great placement. As is, I think that you should be speeding up Squirrel Girl and Kate Bishop probably would be a better way to go. Yeah, I just say, you know, farm these characters up, get the stars going, flesh out the power levels, at least build them up to gear tier 12. It's a solid team. You're going to get some value out of it. And yeah, as is, it's kind of falling apart. So I'm going to give it a C+. But let's get things going. You can also switch Kate Bishop to a striker once you get all the stars on her and get her up and running. But for right now, Skirmisher is a good choice. Otherwise, I like these ISOs. Even power, the placement would be right. So moving on to team number 5. Absolute garbage. Get rid of this team. It's not doing you any favors. This is why we think that this might be a returning player, because they built up the Guardians from like a long time ago, maybe. And I was asking Zero about this. If you're thinking about returning to Marvel Strike Force, you should probably just start a new account. The reason being, you'll be in your old arena shard where everybody else continued building their roster and you didn't. Whereas if you start a new account, you'll be in one of the new arenas with comparable rosters and you won't be getting beat up so much. So might be wise for you as a returning player. But this team has a bunch of wasted investment. They're just inflating their overall TCP with junk you're never going to use. Star-Lord can be used on some hybrid combos, probably not at his level, going, hitting the special instead of his ultimate to feed energy to somebody to make them do some fancy trick. Other than that, this is absolute garbage, total waste of investment. The ISOs aren't great. Groot should never be a fortifier. You kind of want Groot to die. Make him a skirmisher if you're going to do something. Rocket could be a striker to play off of some combos. Star-Lord could be a striker, but let's leave him as a skirmisher for when you use him on hybrids later on. Everybody else is just trash. Just get him out of here. Replace this team with something else. I don't like this. I'm going to go with an F. I just think absolute waste of investment, and it's just an ugly team. Maybe there's going to be a rework because there's a Guardians movie, but there's always a movie in the works, and there's always people saying there's going to be a rework to a team with a movie coming out. We don't know. It's not something worth, you know, investing in. Team number 6, Asgardians. This one was a little bit tricky too. So we have all the investment kind of in the wrong players now, or wrong characters. Now, Valkyrie could be level 64, gear tier 4 with the, and then have the proper abilities, T4 or whatever, or invested in to make her do her thing on her passive. But I doubt it. I don't think that power level contributes to what the investment level is in her. So I doubt that's going to happen, but that is a trick play. You could leave her looking really small and people go, oh, I can wipe the floor with these. And then you go in and kill somebody and it triggers her passive and the team suddenly gets really buff and comes back and slaps. I doubt that's happening right here. Yeah, I'd like to see a Raider on Thor rather than Striker. Valkyrie as a Raider is fine. She can also be a Striker. Striker on Mighty Thor is okay. I'd rather see her as a Raider. Kind of Raider on everybody on this team is how I like to do it, really. Fortifier on Sif is a no-go. She's already super tough compared to the rest of this team. Make her a Raider. She's the only one doing damage out here of all people. So this is kind of ugly. Normally, I would say just skip the team, don't worry about it. However, you already have wasted so much investment in this team, it's almost like you might as well bring up these other two to comparable levels, gear tier 12, get the abilities on them that they need to make the team function. It's a usable defense in war. Doesn't have a lot of value. Thor has some value in some new player stuff, but really the whole team, it's no good. Zero suggests that maybe you should consider bringing up a Ravager team instead. You would have 3 Ravager minions for the Death Scourge, and you would have the Ravager team for the War Scourge, and you could use this as a sack team in the War Scourge. Might have some better value there. So kind of your choice. Personally, I think there was a lot of wasted investment in this. It's really unfortunate that this was played out this way. I don't like that ISO on Sif. That's huge wasted investment. For me, this is a D-. This team is not functioning, and I'm not sure it's worth salvaging. So moving on to team number 7. This is the Gamma team. Just build them up. Just go. This is your tier 1 team right here. This is a priority build. Let's go. You know, the War Scourge is coming around again if it hasn't already started by the time of this video posting. So get your stars on Red Hulk, build him up. You have a 7 red star Green Hulk. That's a fantastic thing. Okay, a big She-Hulk. Let's go. All right, get this team up and running. You've got the other characters unlocked. It sucks that they're such low stars, but it is what it is. Build them up, make it happen. You can use them on defense in war, offense in war. They're great in Crucible. You can use them in bio raids. You can use them all over the place. This is fantastic. There's plug and play hybrids with Red Hulk, Arena, all kinds of value here. And of course, Apocalypse, which you're probably not in the running for the first time through on Apocalypse. Doesn't mean you shouldn't work on this team. Great team. You've got pretty good ISO choices. I suggest Skirmisher for She-Hulk or Healer. I suggest Striker for Green Hulk or Healer. I suggest Raider's okay. You could also go Striker. You could also just go full Healer for the entire team. But She-Hulk's the only one that really needs to be changed. I can live with all the rest. I'd kind of like to see your 7 red. You know, he's your hitter right here. This is your hitter. Let's make him a Striker and capitalize on the vulnerables that Abomination might put out if he gets to take 1 turn. Build this team up. Not a lot wasted. I'm going to give this an A-. It just needs a lot of work to get going. So do that. So make this team a priority. Okay. Team number 8 is the Heroes for Hire. This is unfortunate. You have all the investment in the wrong people. Shang-Chi, of course, is great. And you're doing it right. He's a Raider. You're building him big. Keep going. He's fine. As for Luke Cage and Iron Fist, it's terrible. It's terrible. Iron Fist is now being replaced with Captain America. He's being replaced with Red Guardian to counter some of the counters that come into this team. If you wanted to build anybody on this team, it should be Calling Wing and Misty Knight because they're the ones that are being used in Gamma raids right now. Obviously, you're probably not pushing hard in Gamma, so that isn't like a priority or anything. But full stop on the other boys and get the girls going on this team if you want to work on it. Heroes for Hire is an old team. It's not very exciting. It's not a place that you should prioritize your builds, but that's how it should go. Also, the ISO 8 on Iron Fist is totally wasted. All of the counters that go into this team use a ton of ability or heal block. And so that healer ISO is wasted. Make him a skirmisher, make him a raider, heck, make him a fortifier if you have to. But honestly, get him off of this team. Put Red Guardian in here, put Captain America in here until you can get the Rebirth team up and running. For me, it's a bit of a wasted investment. It could be salvaged. Luke Cage isn't going to be taken off the team right now, so probably brush up the girls on this team and see if you can't make it happen. See if you can replace Iron Fist. Tough call for me on this one. I think I'm going to give it a C. It doesn't offend me too much. It's just, you know, that Iron Fist is such a waste right there. Team number 9, here's a total waste. We don't like this team at all. Strife is kind of the linchpin of the team. If you want this team to work, he needs to be one of the biggest on there so he can taunt early and stay taunting and hold that taunt so that the rest of the team has time to do what they need to do. Madeline Pryor is so incredibly slow, or she would be a good character. So don't invest in her. She's pretty useless. She needs the time to work. Obviously, she's not built enough to do anything. You know, if your Strife was bigger, we would be talking about replacing Madeline Pryor and Mystique with better characters that are already built on your roster. But Strife is no good, so it's a deal breaker. So our advice is scrap the team. Use Hela probably as a skirmisher. You can keep her as a healer. Use her on hybrids to change the speed. Use her for offense. That's where you're going to get more value out of her. Sinister at your level could be used for a lot of things, but I would not recommend new players build Sinister at this time. He's too slow to be effective, and there's better choices than Sinister for a lot of the things where Sinister could be used. However, for Happy Devils, he can use Sinister for some stuff. You know, he's got 6 red stars, so he's going to be summoning or cloning somebody. And you could clone somebody that has 6 red stars, and then it's pretty powerful. There's other characters in the game that we just don't have even access to at higher stars like that, so you could have yourself a clone of them if you can get him to take a turn in time. But man, today's meta is so fast, it's hard to get Sinister to work. So for me, this is an absolute waste. I mean, I guess you haven't wasted too much on Madeline Pryor or Mystique or Strife. Since we're getting rid of them anyways, that's not a big deal. Sinister's kind of a waste for me, but you can still get some use out of them, so it's not that big a deal. And then, of course, Emma, you put a lot of investment in. We need to be using her on offense, so let's scrap the team, throw Emma on offense. I'm going to give this a C, just because it's not offensive. You haven't wasted too much, but it's totally unusable. So let's get rid of it and then use Emma on offense. And finally, team number 10. I'm used to seeing Wakandans in 6. It's kind of weird to see him in 10 over here. We have the Wakandan team with Ultron. Now, we would like to replace Nakia with M'Baku if M'Baku is already built up to about 50,000 or more. So if Happy Devils has M'Baku laying around, replace Nakia while you build Nakia in the background. Most of us agree that the War Dogs is the place to invest for long-term value. Short-term, you just use whatever's biggest because they're all pretty good. They're all pretty good. But if you're going to invest for long-term value, go War Dogs. Ultron in here isn't a bad move, but M'Baku would give him some cover if your M'Baku is big enough. Don't build M'Baku to put him in here. Just build Nakia. Start building on Black Panther 1 mil to get him in here. Wakandans aren't a bad team. They're not amazing, but they're good in War. They're good in Crucible, and the value for them is right now, so go ahead and work on them. There's also some, you know, they open up a gamma lane for you. There's other places you can use them in the game where you can get a little bit of value for these characters. So I think you should brush them up. You have a 7-star Black Panther. Black Panther recently being reworked and having good damage, great synergy on this team, getting the double taps off of Okoye, so you might as well prioritize that build because, you know, him alone on this team, he can jump out there and get kills in the turn meter and just get going. So it's something to do. This isn't a terrible team, but the power levels are so wonky that, I mean, your Ultron and your Shuri kind of inflate this power level up here, making it so that your 7 red star Black Panther is getting crushed. People punching down into this team, not understanding that it's so wonky, it's not really doing anything. So this is another probably tier 2 priority build for you. Get them up, get them going, get the value out of them while you can. And of course, Ultron can then be moved over to the Masters of Evil once you get a 5-piece, and you're not going to waste any investment in him because that's a new hot team that everybody's looking to build. So nothing wasted here. You've got the proper ISOs, pretty decent placement. Everything's fine with me on that front. I just like to see this team fleshed out, built up, little even power levels going across the board. So I'm going to give it a B, actually. It's not terrible. It's just Naki is not doing you any favors here in the time being. So this has been Happy Devil's Defense Up of War Defense. Remember, guys, don't just have a good game. Be good to yourselves and others too. And I'll see you next time. Bye.